It was yesterday evening that I was told that my good friend Kaberuka demanded that I be here today. So he was our president at the ADB, so I couldn't refuse. After his presentation, very comprehensive, and also the presentation of our friend from the US, I just have to perhaps emphasize some of the points raised by my colleague. But first, I would like to say that this treaty is really the legacy of our founding fathers, Mr. Nkrumah, Mr. Sekou Touré, Nyerere, and so on, but also Professor Adedeji from the ECA. I remember in the early 80s, he was fighting, he was struggling to make sure that Africa has its homegrown program. At the time when IMF and World Bank were trying to sell us programs that were designed for Latin America. Unfortunately, he couldn't succeed, but now we are here and we are enjoying this first step of the Continental undertaking. My good friend Kaberuka has highlighted some statistics. I would like to reinforce them, saying that the intra-trade in Africa, globally speaking, is not more than 16%. 16%, because you show 20% sub-regionally, but Africa as a whole is not more than 16%. And this is very low as compared to Latin America, this is 19%. Asia, this is more than 51%. So these are the bad news. The bad news also is about the fragmentation of African market. This is the legacy of colonial system, because our economies were designed to export commodities. All our infrastructures were designed in the sense that they came from internal part of the country to the port to export our goods, but no intra-African linkages. And this as a result of the fragmentation of African market. But the good news is that, as he said, we have the demographic dividend. Today, we are more than 1 billion people. This is a huge market. If we had one market, this could be the size of China, of Germany, and this could be some sort of life insurance for the continent. At a time when, around the world, as he said, there are tendency of nationalism. I may say protectionism. We know that today there are a lot of trade wars between major countries, the US, China, Russia, Europe. So this is a matter of survival for Africa. If we unite, then we can be protected against this protectionism. Otherwise, we are going to disappear. That's why I just can't understand why there are hesitations. I think the big 2 or 3 or 5 are hesitating. We may perhaps want to address that. Nigeria, South Africa, and the other part of Southern Africa. I think it's important that we have not only free trade, but fair trade and equitable trade. This means that we shouldn't try to dominate other countries. We should be able to have solidarity among African countries. This is a key condition for the success unfolding of this African free trade agreement. Otherwise, I'm afraid we may be trapped in trade war, let alone currency war, because we have a multiplicity of currencies in Africa. And if would not unite, if we do not agree on the same direction, some countries may be tempted to impose their will on others. So I do believe that this is the first condition: free trade, fair trade, but also equitable trade. Second condition, my good friend raised it, this is infrastructure. We do not have intra-regional infrastructure in Africa. The PIDA has been around for quite some time. Now I think we have to involve the private sector in the PIDA to make sure that really we could boost African infrastructure. Otherwise, there is no way to have integration in the trade. At some point, I was invited in Arusha to attend a meeting, and I spent 3 days between West Africa and East Africa. I had to go to Europe and then go down to Kenya and then Arusha. We cannot talk about regional integration. We cannot talk about trade integration as long as we do not have good communication system, good infrastructure. And of course, we need to make sure that the private sector is aware of the role it may play. It may play the role in terms of funding, but also in terms of designing the new system. If we leave it only to civil servants, I'm afraid it may be problematic. So I think the private sector should be at the beginning, as well as in the implementation of this system. I do hope that in the coming weeks, private sector people could be invited to join the next step of this treaty. Capacity. Capacity is another problem. Our SMEs are key for the successful unfolding of the treaty, but so far our SMEs are very weak. I heard about AGOA, but as you know, in AGOA, almost 90% of the goods are coming from oil-producing countries. Our SMEs are more or less excluded from AGOA. So we need to make sure that our SMEs have the capacity to comply with the norms and standards and to be able to trade with other countries, with Nigeria, with South Africa, with Kenya. I welcome the offer of assisting our countries to build capacity of our SMEs. I think this is key for Africa. Now the next step. I heard that we have to engage in a new round of negotiation. Our sister from African Union is here. I think that you really should push our leaders to make it, and very quickly. Otherwise, time is running out, and progression is coming. I don't think that we have the luxury to waste time in discussion about the merit. It's already there. We need to unite. It's a matter of survival. So I think it's to take and to give, and our countries have this life insurance at hand, and we need to take advantage of it. Otherwise, I'm afraid we may certainly behind the schedule. So I don't think that I may say more than what my good friend already said, but I'm very happy to be here, and I will be very pleased to respond to any questions.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Yansané, and I must say I am absolutely grateful that you acknowledge the late Professor Adedeji, who for many of us really is the father of regional integration. He was a lone voice early in the 70s and 80s, calling for the right kind of regional integration in Africa. And really his passing is a great loss for the continent. And I wish you were here to see the CFTA being signed. So thank you so much for giving him that acknowledgement on this special day.